There is something clearly wrong with how men and women are dealing with each other, and it starts with how men and women feel about each other. The rise of materialism that coincided with the rise of social media, particularly Instagram, has affected the way women feel about themselves and then, incidentally, how they feel about how they are perceived. Because women started comparing their bodies to other women and manufacturing their bodies to fit a certain standard, aka the IG model body, although it made men more lustful for them, it lowered the respect levels men may have had for them. Perhaps to them, they unconsciously felt like if all this woman cares about is impressing a man, she is not a full woman. She lacks in other areas. She is one-dimensional. She will be good for sex, and that's all. And these same women may fight back and argue that they got surgery on their bodies for themselves or for other women, not for the gaze of men. But how true can that be? If all you're doing is taking pictures of your bent over derriere in a mirror, not of your face or things you love, who do you think this is pleasing? Other women have their own sexuality. They feel their own way about their bodies. Seeing someone else's ass isn't going to do anything stimulating for them, nor is it going to stimulate the person posting it. When we do things from our soul and for our own enjoyment, our nervous system is regulated, and even though we feel excitement for what we're doing, it's a full body experience of the senses. You are embodied when doing what you love, what makes you happy. Therefore, there's a satisfaction and not a depletion, because your energy isn't being extrapolated but moving through you. On the other hand, when we do things for other people, there are all these thoughts about wanting it to be done perfectly, or otherwise face shame and embarrassment. So we have nervousness about that. We are nervous because we are not embodied, and we are extrapolating our energy, not channeling it. It is for someone else, not for us. Therefore, we don't fully enjoy it. We see it as a duty. This alone can be an argument against the idea that the IG woman archetype is living for herself and herself only, against the argument that she gets the surgeries to please only herself. We attract people and situations to us based on what we do. If all we're doing is focusing on our appearance, we tend to attract people who only care about that as well. This isn't fullness. This isn't wholeness. You aren't giving all of yourself, all of your heart. You are living on a surface level. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what men respect or what women respect. We are meant to live for what fulfills us. But if a woman who lives on the surface level of materialism and facade and isn't fulfilled starts complaining about not receiving proper respect from men, then we have an issue. Because this woman is not living from a divine feminine place, and therefore she would not meet a divine masculine. So what she is complaining about is the very thing she's attracting, from not owning herself but selling herself to who gives the most attention. Some men, however, are going through something similar. The IG man has his own archetype. He shares a lot of opinions. He's the podcaster, and he judges and complains and gripes about the superficiality in women without seeing the same thing in himself. Because he also dates these types of women and likes their photos and encourages the behavior of materialism by feeding into it in order to receive sexual satisfaction from these women. As a result, the conflict emerges of men hating these women, yet simultaneously feeling attracted to them sexually. And these women who don't value themselves for anything other than their sexuality, blaming men for not valuing them for anything other than their sexuality. These men who don't see the value in themselves because they're not taking care of themselves properly are also extrapolating their worth through the gaze of women who may be superficial. It is a cycle that has been perpetrated continuously in recent years. Now, the divine masculine and divine feminine have also been talked about a lot in recent years, with people trying to reconcile this issue of superficiality and their feelings about it. I think in general, people have a distaste for the IG man and IG women and know that there's something deeper that is missing from this world on social media. Therefore, creatives have taken more of a front street recently, and the IG baddie aesthetic has transformed into something by a different name, which we'll get into later. As a result, people have started trying to understand this concept of divine masculine and divine feminine. It's what they feel is missing, but they can't quite put their finger on exactly what it truly is. Women have been craving real men, and men have been craving real women. Because the blending of sexuality has taken place with the introduction of a more fluid sexuality in mainstream culture, women are saying that they don't want just the superficial man, they want the real man. Men are saying they don't just want the superficial woman, they want the real woman. But what do they mean when they say this? We have to first get into what man and women represent historically and spiritually. The masculine energies and feminine energies are inherent in every single human being on planet Earth. The reason gender fluidity has become prevalent is because some people recognize the influence of both of these energies within their spirits and simply feel more connected to one over the other, which is fine. But for those who aren't sexually fluid and who feel more connected to the gender they were born as and simply just can't find the connection from psyche to action, this is who I'm talking to. A man who is born a male and feels connection to his masculine energy is spiritually meant to embody logic, structure, assertion, strength, and action. That is essentially the definition of what it means to be a man. If you are a masculine man and are not embodying these traits in some way, you are therefore embodying feminine traits, and you will find a disconnection with the female sex in all of your relations with them. A woman who is born female and feels connection to her feminine energy is spiritually meant to embody creativity, compassion, and connection to intuition. If you are a feminine woman and are not embodying these traits in some way, you are therefore embodying masculine traits and will therefore find a disconnection with the male sex in all your relations with them. As I said before, there are feminine and masculine energies inherent in all human beings. As I speak to you as a woman, there are masculine energies present within me. But for those that connect deeper to their respective born genders, you would tend to have more physical and energetic manifestation of that gender. What happens when you live on the superficial surface of this world is you are not connected to your inner self, and therefore cannot connect to another person's inner self. And so this present issue with men and women is the mirror reflection of the lack of inner work being done. The lack of connection with oneself is attracting the lack of connection with another. When we spend too much time on our phones and not enough time being present with people, our world becomes what's on our phone, not real connection. Therefore, we aren't spending time with ourselves and others and knowing ourselves and others. And this just leads to judging the other sex for not giving what is lacking in both them and yourself. Another outward manifestation of this deeply embedded issue in the culture is the material facade women put on when it comes to how they dress. So the perceived feminine way of dressing, where women wear these very Hillary Banks style outfits and headbands and who wish to appear polished and feminine. For some women, that simply is just their style. But if you go from dressing in that IG baddie aesthetic way of dressing, which is on the opposite end of the spectrum and is extremely showy and sexy, to the complete opposite end of the spectrum, which is very prissy, then there's perhaps a disconnect with who you really are and what you are projecting. Either way, you are likely dressing that way because you think that is the right way to dress as a woman, even though you don't exactly connect to it. This is evidenced by the fact that there are a lot of women who make this change in how they dress, but they will still make posts and go on podcasts and have this very male-centered way of thinking. They are still the girl in the mirror with her back arched for the world to see, the girl who doesn't really value herself and who cares more to impress than to know herself and others. They just dress it up differently and disguise it by dressing very prim and then give advice on what it means to be feminine, but never what it means to be a woman. Overall, there is a rebalancing of the energies that needs to take place for men and women to start meeting each other in a real way. Rather than projecting, women need to actually start tapping into that inherent feminine energy and finding the nurture within and using it on themselves to really truly love themselves. Because when you do, you project love for yourself, for your own inherent good qualities, for your interests, and for your loved ones, and therefore attract real love and appreciation and respect from a man. And men need to actually tap into their masculine energy and find the provider within and use it on themselves to really truly love themselves. They need to find out what they want, make it happen, because men are supposed to act. And once they provide what they need for themselves, they can attract the woman ready to receive it. And she won't simply want to take. If you are in your divine masculine, you will attract a divine feminine who has her own fullness and therefore knows she deserves to receive and also has the capacity to nurture you. This makes for happier relationships between men and women when we are both fully embodied in our natural energies. So this was a quick video. I just wanted to share my feelings and thoughts on this very prevalent topic. If you have any opinions in response to what I've said, you can share them in the comments. And if you're interested in extensive birth chart readings, then book with me below. And also if you're into clothing that reflects your love for astrology and spirituality, then you can shop the link below. Thank you for watching to the end. Please join me again next week. I'm Aaliyah, the spiritual astrologer. Thank you.